Hey, welcome to Let's Talk Nation. I'm your man, Rod Love, and the General Attorney Greg Jackson is sitting in the commander's chair.
Once again, it's on. Once again, it's on, brother. Hey, I know what you're doing this weekend, but we gonna do this just because it's protocol.
It's protocol.
How's the weekend this weekend, man?
Hey, man, this was a super. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
This was a super
You
weekend.
got it right, man. You got it right.
How about yours, man?
Listen, man, it was a good weekend, man. It was a good weekend. I got a chance. Listen, man, got a chance to get out and do a nice little photo shoot. It was a take on, and I couldn't believe it. The model and her husband came through, and they had no idea what I was referencing when I said, and Brother Armando, raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about, but they had no idea when I was referencing Set It Off and Dead Presidents.
No?
Had no idea what I was talking about. So I did a photo shoot that was kind of based on that theme. So I'm excited to see what happens with that one, man. So,
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that too.
yeah, man. So what about you, man? What'd you get into?
Greg, man, you know, I did a little cleaning up. Yeah, I did some, it was time, man, to do some
Spring cleaning. Ain't even spring yet.
Hey, man, I got stuff that I didn't get rid of doing last spring that I needed. So I did a little bit of that. And, man, I just got ready for Sunday.
Yeah, getting ready for the game?
Man, got ready
Yeah.
for the game. And,
Yeah.
and boy, what a game it was.
Nah, well, I ain't gonna say all that.
Greg,
Ain't gonna say all that.
Greg, it was not a blowout. And it kept you in suspense right doggone down to the last. You know what? And we're not going to give it away, but when it got down to like a minute and 46 seconds, and some of my friends were like, yeah, San Fran got this. I said, y'all know what? That's too much doggone time.
Yeah, man. I say this, man, and for those who are listening, you're tuned in to two of the most influential voices in Central Florida on Monday night. Brother Love and Greg Jackson, the dynamic duo guaranteed to raise your IQ 10 to 15 points. And Brother Love, we're gonna talk a little bit about sports and politics and all the things in between. But you're right, though, Brother Love. When we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, the question is, are the Kansas City Chiefs the new Patriots? And is Patrick Mahomes
The new
Brady?
Greg,
Think about it.
but then if you think about it, you and I, you know how we do.
Yeah.
We do it based on empirical data. We don't
That's
get
it.
into we don't get into the theory aspect.
Brother Armando over there hating.
He hating.
Over there hating.
Hey, but if you think about it, and Greg, this would have been a good topic, man.
Yeah.
For your dad, who is an encyclopedia.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, for those of you who are listening to the show and you want to chime in, please feel free to. The phone number to call is 352-973-0136. Let me give you that number one more time. 352-973-0136. Greg, man, what? They've been to the Super Bowl the last three?
Was it the last 3 out of 4 years or
3
3
out
out
of
of
4
5 years?
Yeah.
I mean, they've won it. I mean, this is their second consecutive Super Bowl win.
Correct.
It is the third in the past 4 years, if I recall correctly. They've been there 5 times, if I remember correctly. I think that it's fair to say, the Chiefs, under the leadership of Andy Reid, have embarked upon what some would call a dynasty.
You're right. You're right. And Greg, since you bring up Andy Reid, now I got to go ahead and ask you this question.
Yeah.
Did you see on the sideline when
I know what you're talking about.
Kelsey?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Was it a hip bump or?
No, it was a grab. Oh no, hip bump. He grabbed me. I thought he was about to mug that man. He shook him, and he rattled Andy Reid because Andy Reid kind of
Yeah.
But I think it was because did Kelsey fumble the ball, drop the ball, whatever the case may be, and Andy Reid may have taken him out of the game.
I don't know.
And I guess
He was.
okay,
Yeah,
he just wanted the ball.
Yeah, he just wanted the ball, and you know what? It's been a lot of receivers that have showed their disdain when they're not getting the ball in clutch situations, and they've handled it a whole bunch of different ways. But Greg, come on, man, you're the head coach.
Listen, it worked. He started because after that he started getting the ball a whole lot after that. Think about
You
it.
know what? You know what? I love to hear what Greg Jackson Sr. I like to hear what Daddy Jackson got to say about this because, man, he is a good player.
Uh-huh.
But Greg, come on, man. That's what
no,
you
no,
do?
no, no, no. I'm gonna stop you right there, brother Love. We got to give credit where credit due. He is not a good player.
He's a great player.
This guy, listen, he is now a 3-time Super Bowl winning wide receiver.
Tight end.
I'm sorry. Yeah, my bad. Tight end. He is. He is a true leader on that team. He has been the focal point of that offense. And at a time when your team is down, because I think they were down 3-0
He made some
at
clutch,
the time.
a couple of clutch catches.
Yeah.
First
And at that time, I mean, he's trying to get involved in the game, and I guess they're calling plays that put the ball away from him. He's like, hey, wait a minute, I'm still here. So I mean, listen, he rattled him. He got his point.
And the other side, because you're right, I made him into an ordinary player when he's an extraordinary player.
Yeah.
And then you don't want to go out during a Super Bowl with, the whispers that you got shut down.
That's right.
By a cornerback that you didn't get shut down by. You're just not getting the ball.
That's right. But here's the real story of the evening, Brother Love. The real story of the evening was the halftime show. When Usher put his hands all over Alicia Keys. And that right there, I'm wondering if Swiss Beats was on his way down the stairs.
Or was he saying, this is showbiz, this is showbiz?
I don't know, man.
That's what he was saying, this showbiz.
That's what he said. Swiss Beats. He said that's what he said.
Oh, he's good with it?
Yeah.
All right, well, as long as he listen, as long as he like it, I love it.
Hey, but great, let me ask you this question.
What's that?
What did you think about the show?
Eh.
Oh, there you go.
So, but let me say this. Let me say this, because I don't ever want to be accused of Greg Jackson being a hater. I like Usher's music.
Okay.
I think that Usher is a tremendous performer. I think that he has a tremendous voice. I think that all of the accolades that he gets as a performer are well deserved. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, great. No, I really truly like Usher. But, Brother Love, when I compare last night's Super Bowl performance, don't get me wrong. Listen, they brought out the A, and I like that Usher did that because like I said, I grew up in Georgia for part of my life. So to see Ludacris, to see Lil Jon, to see Jermaine Dupri on the stage with Usher, I like seeing that because especially after the historic win by Killer Mike, also out of Atlanta, in L.A. This happened in Las Vegas. So I mean, listen, I appreciate that. But Brother Love, when I compare it to Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg.
Oh, I got you.
50 Cent.
I got you.
Eminem, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige. That in my mind is the Super Bowl halftime performance to beat in my mind. Now, there's a lot of folks may disagree, but listen, I grew up. I grew up listening to Al Green, and Al ain't gonna be doing no Super Bowl.
You never know. Hey, you never know.
Yeah,
Jay-Z is the creative artist for the NFL. Super Bowl halftime. So let
me tell you something. If they put Al Green in the halftime show, the Super Bowl is going in the pot.
Man,
not Reverend Al.
But you know what, man, and see Greg will have us hopping because I'm gonna say when Snoop Dogg started calling Charlie Wilson uncle.
Yeah.
And then you look at how relevant Uncle Charlie is now. Come on now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so listen, man. So, but don't get me wrong. The Super Bowl show was great. It was fantastic. I liked the performance. But in terms of what I like to see, my favorite performance thus far in recent memory, I'm sure it's been some other ones. Wait, I think Prince performed in the Super Bowl.
He did. In the rain.
Yeah, listen. So yeah, I mean, listen. That's Yeah, Michael. That's right, Michael Jackson.
Well, they were talking today. I can't remember if it was the Breakfast Club or who it was, but they were talking about the top 5 Super Bowl performances, and they did cite Dr. Dre as one of the top 5.
You, man. Yeah, I'm telling you. And you got Michael Jackson and Prince.
Yeah,
you got to put them in there. That show with Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson, that could have been a top 5 performance.
That was the malfunction,
the wardrobe malfunction. Yeah, that could have been top 5 up in there. And I mean, Britney Spears has been there. I wasn't crazy about Rihanna's performance, but I'm not really a Rihanna fan. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure for people who enjoy her music, that was it. But yeah, man, like I said, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, Eminem, Kendrick Lamar, and Mary J. Blige, you can't beat that.
But you know what I love, Greg, and I can't let us lead a segment without saying it.
Yeah.
When you saw what Usher did with the people from the A.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, man, I was sitting back thinking, and for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Usher made sure that Atlanta was represented with the artists that he came up with, the artists that he's worked with. he just, I mean, it showed me, Greg, man, what if we could do that in other aspects of business?
Yeah.
Man, work with each other, bring each other up. And I'm not saying give anybody anything and you don't get any participation certificate in business, but because we know that there are people that are in business that are more than competent, man, just think what it would be like if we were able to just kind of continue to, and I hate to use this word loosely, Greg, but help
Yeah.
one another like that.
I mean, listen, you have to support, you have to support the people that support you.
Yeah.
And, it kind of takes me back to something that Dame Dash said. As much as people down Dame Dash, one of the founders of Rockefeller Records, Jay-Z's former business partner, they've been beefing for about 10 years now, if not more, probably a little bit more than 10 years now. And one of the things that Dame Dash said that I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, if they don't know, they should keep this in mind, is that you should always work to help to help people around you to be successful.
Yeah.
Because he said, listen, if I can make 10 people millionaires, if anything were to ever happen to me, I can call on them and just ask them for 10% of what they have, and I'll be a millionaire again. And so, I mean, if we're thinking along the mindset of building networks, building relationships so that those around us are immensely successful. If anything were to happen, God forbid, you could always lean on those individuals that you've helped to become successful. And they have to remember, too, now. That's the other thing, too, because a lot of times people have short memory.
Loyalty matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Loyalty matters.
Absolutely.
And Greg, Greg, how long have we been doing this now?
Over 6 years now.
yeah.
Yeah, over 6 years.
And we have some folk, Joe Quality Auto Repair.
I thought you forgot.
No, I didn't know. I didn't forget about Joe. And Joe's been with us, man, for a long time, man. You got Sean Cousins.
Wait. What did he say?
See, y'all. See. I think
did he
this
say?
is. I think this is a conspiracy
No, you
because
brought it up, though.
They break, I fix. Marcel.
see, I know it's a conspiracy. See, Doc must have y'all on that. Doc,
Hey, but no, wait.
They break, I fix. Marcel.
okay, y'all got me. Hey, matter of fact, since y'all got me like that, Doc, just run his commercial now. You might as well run his commercial.
They break, I fix. Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, Jaguars and Porsche. Joe's Quality Auto Repair. I specialize in European cars. They break, I fix at Joe's European Quality Auto Repair. Located at 1240 State Road 436 in Altamont Springs. They break, I fix. Call me, mention Let's Talk Nation and bring your certified dealership repair quote. And I beat by 30%. Remember, they break, I fix. Call me at Joe's European Quality Auto Repair at 407-409-6040. Again, 407-409-6040. After they break, I fix. Joe's European Quality Auto Repair.
They break, I fix. Okay, I got it out.
Listen, Joe should be showing some mad love.
Man, what you say, man? What you say? But yeah, we got Joe Quality Auto Repair. We got Sean Cousins, who is in construction. Marlo Dickens. I mean,
got Alan Damon, the custom clothier, one of the other sponsors of the show. Yeah.
who else do we have that's been sticking with us, man? Oh man, the list is, well, we better slow it down because boy, we start out.
They won't pay no bills either.
They
They won't pay no sponsorship costs. That's that. So, but I was joking with you, Brother Love, when I said I thought you forgot, because that was our segue, Brother Love.
That was our segue.
That was our segue. So apparently,
Uh-huh.
for those who've been following the news cycle, you all remember that President Donald Trump, that they said he had some documents at his Mar-a-Lago home. And Donald Trump basically said, hey, well, listen, first and foremost, he didn't pack his own stuff, and that's the other thing. But the documents that were there, they were behind locked doors and things like that. And apparently his lawyers were working with the agency to get the documents back or to determine what was classified and what was not. And so in the midst of all of this, it comes out that former Vice President Pence also has some documents, and former Vice President, now current President Biden, had documents in his garage in an open box. And so the DOJ was looking at how, if they were going to prosecute Joe Biden, as they are prosecuting Donald Trump at this time, about the documents found in Mar-a-Lago. And so the special counsel that was appointed by the Department of Justice came out with a damning report, Brother Love. And what the report said, it said that Joe Biden did in fact take documents and that he had classified documents and he used those classified documents for his autobiography that he read to an autobiographer. But, Brother Love, they said, or he said, that he would not recommend prosecuting Joe Biden because he would come across as a kind old man with a poor memory. And this drove the White House crazy, and this lit a fire up under the GOP to say, well, wait a minute. If Joe Biden is incompetent to stand trial because he has a poor memory, how is it that he can be running for president of these United States right now?
So it brought into question his fitness.
His mental fitness.
yeah.
That's right. And you know, time and time again, there have been reports, you know, across social networks or across media networks about Joe Biden and appearing at different events and not knowing how to get off a stage or getting lost in his words. And there has been a significant and a documented concern by Republicans and Democrats that Joe Biden is of failing mental health. And even so much so that there's been some talk about the 25th Amendment potentially being evoked so that Kamala Harris could take over and say that Joe Biden is no longer fit to serve as president because of his age and his mental acuity.
Great. This is, I mean, to me, and help me, man, if I'm wrong, but a double-edged sword. This is in part a defense.
Right.
And then at the same time, you have this individual running for the most powerful seat, not the country, in the world.
In the world. He is the leader of the free world, and there's a report now saying that he is unfit or incapable to stand trial. But this is the gentleman that is has been elected to run as president of these United States and is currently serving as president of these United States.
And that gives a lot of validity to all these different polls that are out there saying, I mean, and it's speaking to both candidates as it relates to their age,
Right.
That they're too old to serve.
I mean, listen. So you know, the word is that you know Joe Biden mixed up the Egyptian president with the Mexican president, but also in the same regard, Donald Trump mixed up Nancy Pelosi with Nikki Haley.
You're right. You're right.
And so, I mean, listen, Donald Trump is 77. He's no spring chicken. Joe Biden is 81. He is legitimately an octogenarian. He's 80. He's in his 80s. I have no idea why on the Republican side as well as on the Democrat side, we have two elderly men, because that's what it is, that are running for president and actually leading the respective parties as the leading candidates for president.
Great. Let me ask you this, man. I mean, and this is, you're very familiar with this. You have a population or a generation of individuals that have been your dedicated voting block. And customarily, Greg, it's been your 45 to 65.
Right.
So how do you think that voting block is going to respond to? I mean, I can see your 45 to maybe 55 saying, you know, maybe both of these guys are too old to be there. But then your 55 to 65, they might be, you know, a little biased saying, hey, look, I'm in control of my faculties. They trying to knock elderly or older people. What's your thoughts about that? Because that has been a dedicated voting block for America for decades.
I mean, yeah, you're right. You're right. But I mean, even the 45 to 55s, they're still 20 and 30 years younger than the youngest guy that's running for president. And, you know, there's still those questions of, can this person withhold the strain and the stresses of being the leader of the free world?
Every president that we've seen that has served 2 terms, when that second term comes around, it looks like they got, man,
age,
20
age,
years.
Age years.
Yeah.
Age years. I mean, because it is a job that requires their attention. It's a lot of stress that is placed on that individual, those individuals who have served. And yeah, I mean, but you know, even now, people are saying that, you know, I mean, think about it. When the war was kicking off between you know, the Palestinians and Israel, a lot of folks were commenting that Joe Biden was vacationing or in his vacation home on the weekends, as opposed to being there in the Situation Room, making sure that things going on. Also, Lloyd Austin
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, I mean, he's back in hospital now, but even during that time, Joe Biden, he didn't even think enough of the president, his boss, to call him and say, hey, listen, I'm not going to be able to work because I'm having a surgery done or whatever it is I'm having done. We're going to have to have somebody in my place. And it's things like that that's taking place to where people really and truly are concerned about the direction of this country with these elder individuals in these high profile, high power positions.
You're right. And Greg, since you mentioned the secretary, he's the Secretary of Defense, right?
That's right.
Greg, I mean, when I saw, and I think I just saw this yesterday, maybe, where he's being readmitted into the hospital, and I think basically he had to be transported from his home because it was that serious.
Yeah, but at least he told somebody this time.
Well,
At least this time.
but how could you not when medical emergency staff had to come to your house?
But that's what they did the first time.
Oh, okay.
When they came to get him the first time, and they were like, hey, don't cut on the lights because the person that you're coming to get is a high-profile political figure. So, I mean, this is not his first rodeo. He knows what to tell them to do, and that's what they do.
But when you think about that, if you Joe Citizen, you immediately think, I want to be, sympathetic to his healthcare needs, but at the same time, scratching your head when you think about the security of the country.
I mean, listen, all bets are off when you have someone who is over the national defense or over the defense of this country. There is no keeping this private.
Yeah.
I mean, just like with the president of the United States, if he has some mental acuity issues, there is no HIPAA requirement in that. We need to know that the person who is the president of these United States is capable of making the right decision. We need to know that the person that the president has put in place to be over our national defense and keeping this country safe is fit to do the job. And if his health prevents him or her from doing that, we need to know that, and Congress needs to know that so the actions can be taken.
Because the last time this happened, Greg, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time this happened, it was reported on, multiple networks that we didn't even know if the number 2 was.
Well,
in
she was on
position.
vacation.
Yeah, so that's my point.
Yeah, she was on vacation. No one knew, and you cannot listen. This is not Wawa. You know what I'm saying? This is not the 7-Eleven. This is the United States of America, and if a key member of the cabinet is not available to do his or her job, people need to know so that the right pieces or the right people can be put in place so that things don't fall, fall into the abyss.
You're right.
And so, yeah, I mean, that was absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
And before we get off this, Greg, there's a reason why, individuals such as this are being appointed into those positions because they have the skill sets, they have the competencies, and if they are not in charge, the country needs to know.
Absolutely. Or at the very least, his boss needed to know.
You're right. You're right.
And that's
You're right.
listen, that's the crazier thing, that the president of the United States, or that the White House, not even the president, but the White House did not know that this guy had gone in for an emergency surgery and was not available to do his job at a key point of a conflict that was taking place in an area that is of high interest and concern to the United States.
You're right. You're right. Well, Greg, man, I'm gonna push us to another area, and I think I'm pushing us back closer to the Super Bowl. But Greg, the Nevada primaries.
Oh, brother love.
What?
Oh man.
Greg, what was it?
Oh,
Nobody
man.
or the next?
None of these.
None of these.
None of these. So, for those of you all who keep up with politics or even dance on the periphery of politics, similar to myself and Brother Love, and you follow what's taking place. You know what I'm saying? So when the Iowa caucus took place, we wanted to watch because, you had 3 candidates and we wanted to just kind of see who would pull it off. When you had the other caucuses or the other primaries, we wanted to just kind of see after, Governor DeSantis, step down and endorse President Trump, and it's just Nikki Haley and Trump. And so, the next big state to talk about or to be discussed was Nevada. And so something unprecedented happened, Brother Love. Nevada typically has a caucus, and that caucus was actually just held, and Donald Trump won by 99%. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about that in 1 second. But what Nevada decided it was going to do also is that it was going to hold a primary, which it had not done a primary. And Nevada had decided that Donald Trump was not going to be on the Nevada primary ballot. The only person of prominence who was on the ballot in Nevada for the primary, which again, that is, they don't get delegates from the Nevada primary. They get delegates from the Nevada caucus.
Okay.
The only person whose name was on there of prominence was Nikki Haley. And the voters of Nevada spoke out emphatically against the campaign of Nikki Haley, because as opposed to Nikki Haley winning by a landslide as the most prominent name on the list of candidates, she finished behind none of these candidates' option.
And that was an option that you had to vote on if you lived in Nevada.
Yeah, yeah. Now compare that to the Nevada caucus, which took place, I want to say it recently took place, but Trump won 99 or approximately 99% of the votes in the Nevada caucus, which that's what would put him in play for the delegates, or for the delegates for the convention for the GOP. So Nikki Haley, and as a matter of fact, Nikki Haley said that she didn't want to be a part of the Nevada caucus. I remember that's how you get delegates. But she said she didn't want to be a part of it because it was designed for Trump to win. But wait a minute, the Nevada primary was designed for you to win, and you didn't win.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is getting extremely interesting as Nikki Haley and Donald Trump prepare for March 5th, which is Super Tuesday.
Super Tuesday, okay.
Yeah, Super Tuesday, which South Carolina is going to be a part of that Super Tuesday discussion. And Nikki Haley, Brother Love, for what it's worth, as a former ambassador who was appointed by Donald Trump as the former governor of South Carolina, she had better have a tremendous showing in South Carolina.
But Greg, did you see any of the polling? I mean, right now that's her home state,
Yeah.
where she was the governor, and right now she's not polling well at all.
I mean, no, she's not. She's not. And it's this phenomena of Donald Trump. And, I was having a conversation with two of my good friends on Friday. And, John, I don't think you met Brother Hernandez yet. But Brother John Burns with Aggression Management and the work that he does. And so we were having a conversation because, one is, staunchly against Trump, and the other is very sympathetic and understands where Trump is coming from. And so the conversation came around, Trump doesn't do things and he alienates people and he talks about people, and even people in his own party, go against him. But most certainly it's difficult for him to work with, Democrats or other people on the other side of the aisle. And as I'm sitting there listening to the conversation between my friends, it hit me, Brother Love. It hit me. And so I asked them the question. And Let's Talk Nation, I'm asking you all the question. All right. This is where the IQ percentage that Brother Love and I work so hard to give you all comes into play. All right, Brother Love, you ready for the question?
I'm ready.
All right. You think Let's Talk Nation is ready for the
They're
question?
ready for it. They're ready for it.
In the history of the United States, all right, and let's say within the last 100 years, I don't want to take people beyond 100 years. As a matter of fact, I don't want to do 50 because it's not that many. But let's say, to make it interesting, in the history of the United States over the past 100 years, at what point in time have we had a president who never served in a political position? Ever.
It'd be doggone Donald Trump.
So when you have Donald Trump and you are asking him to be and to act and to serve as a politician would, you're asking him to do something that he
He's never done.
has never done. He won president of the United States as legitimately a non-politician that people selected because he was a non-politician. And so the unconventional way that he does things and things like that, and that's what I'm saying, let me play devil's advocate for a moment. Because you're asking him to do something that he's never done. Has he dealt with politicians? Yeah. And I would dare say, Brother Love, that as a non-politician that came in to look at things with a different set of eyes, there were things that have been brought out and things that were brought out that I believe was helpful for the country. Now, here's something that was helpful for the country, Brother Love. During the time period that Donald Trump was president, how often were you concerned about North Korea, China, or Russia?
You weren't. And I'm going to tell you why you weren't. You weren't because I think those countries sat back, Greg, and they said, we don't really know who we dealing with.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? It was like, we don't know this guy.
Yeah.
Is he crazy enough to do the stuff that he's saying? And at the very least, we need to respect the craziness
Yeah,
of who this guy is and not make any moves, because he still, despite what you think about him, he still holds the office as the leader of the most dominant military
Right.
and the most dominant world force, that we have currently
Right.
today.
You know what, Greg? Something else to your point, though. The fact that he's never held any type of governmental office ever. There is something that he has been in the limelight, Greg. Shoot, I don't know how many decades. I guess it's all relative and it matters. This reality TV, and he knows the sensationalism or the degree of sensationalism that push people's buttons to get them to talk about him.
Absolutely.
Think about all the free earned, what is it called? Earned media?
Earned media, yeah.
That he got when he ran the first time.
Right.
And then the news networks started saying, we're going to refrain from doing this the second round because we thought it was just entertainment before.
Right.
But that entertainment got him into the kitchens, the living rooms.
And into the conversation.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing too, though, Brother Love, as the other part of it, because I continue to challenge them, as I'm going to challenge Let's Talk Nation right now. At what point in our history, the moment that a president took office, immediately there were calls for him to be impeached?
I can't recall any.
So think about, so when Trump has this chip on his shoulder, Brother Love, I think that he legitimately has a chip on his shoulder because from the very first day that he stepped into office, he was ridiculed, he was talked about, he was told that he was not a legitimate president, he was told that he should be impeached, and he hadn't even served a single day in office. Now, I'm not saying that, and I have to always tell people this, I'm not saying this as a supporter of Donald Trump. What I'm saying this as is, did the American media, did the Democratic Party and those of us on the Democratic side of the aisle, did we really give Donald Trump a fair opportunity and chance to serve as president, or was he attacked from the beginning to where he had to go on the offensive from day one that his presidency started?
And our engineers say both of those, but the other side of it, Greg, which I've said before, man, if you look at some policy stances, we see celebrities now, and I'm not saying celebrities know what they're talking about. I'm gonna absolutely
Most
say
times
that
they don't.
But man, when you look at some of the things that are taking place now, and I hate that we always got to point to New York and California, because it's not taking place here in Florida. But $53 million.
Oh man,
to give individuals,
not individuals. Say what it is.
Immigrants,
Not
undocumented.
immigrants. Okay, say you got to say what it is, because we have people that are immigrants that came the right way.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Undocumented immigrants, man, and then you have folk that are out there that are United States citizens that are struggling,
That have served this country,
that have served this country too.
in the military honorably.
And so, one day you get 50 Cent who says, hey, man, maybe I need to look at an alternative to this if we're giving away $53 million of taxpayer money in gift cards to undocumented immigrants. And then what took place earlier during the year, Greg, what was it, about $100 million paid on hotels?
For the hotels, yeah. And listen, Brother Love, we're not talking about just hotels. We're not talking about come on in motels and red roof inns. We're talking about luxury 5-star hotels that literally guests either were not allowed to come into the hotels, or they were displaced from being in those hotels to allow illegal immigrants who were brought to New York to have a place to stay.
Greg, I think one of the things that...
And and Brother Love, that's on top of the school that was shut down.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, listen.
To provide a place
Yeah.
for undocumented immigrants to reside at. And so those hardworking taxpayers that were sending their kids to public school had to have the kids homeschooled for a week.
Yep.
And I just don't know how Mayor Eric Adams, how he does this and come back and justify it. And I know our executive producer, Doc, can cue this up, but I think one of the things, Greg, is that the media and it's platforms like ours that are having these conversations. But I think when the conversation is being hidden, but you see and you know that this is taking place out there, and Doc, I don't know. I know I'm surprising you with queuing up the guy. I think it was New York, Greg. It was New York. He was out in Central Park. Law enforcement was there, and he was really upset with the fact that he works 40 hours a week, and he's still finding himself homeless, and he's not getting the benefit of what he sees.
Mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, there's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Yeah, Father, we don't need to escalate. You see, war is not the end.
Y'all don't give a fuck about the motherfuckers that was born and fucking raised here.
Oh,
Y'all
what's
raised the
going
fucking
on?
rich so fucking high.
What's going on? Yeah, what's going on?
Can't afford to live here.
Oh,
But y'all gonna
what's
bring some
going
other motherfuckers here?
Oh, what's
That
going
doesn't
on?
fucking add up.
What's going on?
It doesn't make no
Yeah,
fucking
what's
sense.
going on?
None.
Oh,
None.
what's going on?
I'm fucking homeless.
Oh, what's
I work
going
a
on?
full-time job. 40
What's
hours.
going on? Yeah, what's going
And can't
on?
pay to live here.
Oh, what's going
How
on?
the fuck are y'all gonna bring somebody else here?
Right on, baby. Right on, baby.
Don't make no fucking sense. None.
Hey, General, I got to ask you, man.
Yeah.
You know, and we apologize to our audience in advance if some of the language offended you. We want to apologize. But, General, when you hear an individual talking about how high the rent costs are, it's being well reported that grocery bills are on the increase while the quantity, and I know you've seen this, manufacturers are shrinking the amount you're getting, but leaving the price the same.
Yeah.
All of this at the same time, we're hearing about the help that's going out, and it's not helping people that are United States citizens.
You know, but look, I'm gonna tell you, man. I am ashamed and embarrassed to say that today, for the first time, I really looked to see what grocery prices are. Because normally I don't grocery shop. She does grocery shopping, and so I was talking to my to my paralegal today, and I don't know how we got on the conversation, but she was talking about bread costs some amount, and I was like, I think she said like $6. I said, there's nowhere in the world
Bread costs $6.
bread costs
Yeah,
$6.
yeah.
I said that is not true. And so she's like, no, and milk costs about the same thing too. And I was like, there's no truth to that. Until I went to my Instacart app and I pulled up Publix.
And you saw it
And I
yourself.
saw that there was bread for $5 and some change, unless it was a keto bread, which was $9.32. I saw the eggs, and she said that the egg prices are starting to come down. The egg prices were like $4 something a dozen, unless it was range free or cage free or whatever they call it. That was like $12 for a dozen. And then I saw milk, Brother Love, which absolutely baffled me because a gallon of milk was $5.29, but half a gallon was $4.20. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. If it's half the amount of the gallon, it should be half the price, but it wasn't. Prices, and this is what I don't understand. When we as Democrats, when we ignore the obvious, and when we say, hey, times aren't that bad, or prices aren't that bad. Prices right now are that bad, Brother Love. And the fact that there's certain places that are literally shutting down and shutting their doors now because of the increase in violence in areas where they are looking to defund police, where police were abandoned by, I don't want to say Democrat, but I'm going to say liberal policymakers and liberal politicians in their area. and that has led to an increase in crime in those areas. When you have, after school programs that are being shut down and taken away, and when you have African American communities and non-African American communities, because I don't want to make this a black and white thing, but you have underserved communities, no matter the race, that don't have the funds coming through to put programs in place for the youth in those areas. But then you see places like California, places like New York, places like Washington, places like Chicago, where they are freely giving their taxpayers money for individuals who aren't even citizens of this country.
You know what? This is a good conversation. This is
Yeah.
a good conversation, Greg, because, when you look at college tuition and you look at how you have certain legislatures that have made college tuition for undocumented immigrants where getting scholarships, but also getting what they call an in-state tuition costs. And Greg, it's being said more times than not now that Americans get loans and everybody else get benevolence.
Yeah,
I mean, how does that figure, man?
it don't. Doc, what you got, man?
Man, y'all crump me up. I wasn't gonna pop in, but I want to show you this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share this. Can you see that on the screen?
Doc, why you pulling that up, man? You weren't lying when you said you lost some weight, man.
Oh yeah.
You saw that picture you put out?
Oh, yeah. So Doc earlier, man,
Man,
spoke that.
man,
Yeah.
you did good, brother. You did real good.
Doc showing out.
Thank you. Yeah, that was 300 pounds, man.
Man.
Hey, Doc, you showing me some ginger snaps?
You see the price on them?
$6 and some change.
I remember those things were $1.50, man.
And let me tell you, and we talk about eating. That's one of my only little snacks, right? And I go in Walmart the other day, and that was the price that greeted me, and I could not believe it. I literally could not believe it. It's not even a pound of cookies, and it's almost $7.
Yeah.
And this it's ridiculous.
Hey,
And like
but
Greg
you know
said,
but you know what? I'm gonna go back to you and Greg, to the extent that, and I don't have to mention, I don't want to drudge this up, but we've had some politicians that have run for office, and there were questions that weren't asked while they were campaigning, and then those questions subsequently came out after they got in office,
Right.
and everybody was like so surprised that, man, an obvious question that was never asked during the campaign. So now I think some of the questions that need to be asked, no matter what level of government you're trying to run for office at, is what is your stance and position on undocumented immigrants in the community? Because we see so many, and I got to say, man, and the good thing is here in Florida, while we're telling everybody come and enjoy the American dream, we're saying go the right route.
But here's the problem with that. And Doc, I don't know how you feel about this, but here's the issue with asking that question, and in particular in the black community. In the black community, we so often take on the challenges and the issues of other folks until we ignore our own issues. And so, if you were to go into the black community and say, hey, what is your stance on illegal immigration? They're going to say, oh, you should let everybody in, or you should let people in. I mean, until it starts to hurt. But we're told as African Americans that other people's issues are more important than our issues, and we were starting to believe that. Whether it was LGBTQ issues, whether it was immigration issues, whether it was you name the other issues, every other issue was put in front of us, and we accepted that was more important than what was taking place in our community. And so when we look up and we see we're not getting funding for school programs, we're not getting funding for sustainable businesses in the African American community, so much so that when certain banks promised that they were going to put a certain amount of billions of dollars into the African American community, they never did it, and they weren't held accountable for it. And Byron Allen, who we talked about last week, when he went and he was like, well, wait a minute, McDonald's or somebody said that they were going to start doing more advertising on these networks, and they didn't do it, and his case gets kicked out. We're being promised things as an African American community that we're not getting, and other issues and causes are replacing what our issues and causes are, to where we're being left further and further behind until it looks like we're begging for stuff.
You're right. You're absolutely right, Greg. And Greg, I'm glad you brought up Byron Allen.
That's our fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Doc, before you go there, Byron Allen and Greg, and Doc has had this conversation with us before when we talk about those folk that we stand on their shoulders and how they did things and sacrifice, knowing they wouldn't get the benefit of it.
Right.
But Byron Allen just lost a $100 million lawsuit against McDonald's. And he's pledged to file an appeal on this thing. But then they put the, what is it, Greg? They put the attorney fees on his company to pay. And Byron Allen, come on, man, he got deep pockets.
Yeah.
But he's doing something, Greg, that may not even benefit him.
Right.
And he's doing it for the future. But then going a little step further, man, when you talk about, and Doc just alluded to this, and a lot of this, when you talk about, Greg, we taking on other people's issues versus staying focused on our own, man, I can't express enough, man, how it is our damn fault. We got leaders out there, but, man, we just, for whatever reason, and I'm saying this to be critical, to hope that this might be critical enough to help us mobilize. But, Greg, we got to learn how to circle the doggone wagons, man, and stick. Let's go in that room and say, this is what we're agreeing upon. Nobody break ranks.
But we're doing that to ourselves in the same sense that the nation is doing that to itself with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. We are relying on old, washed out politicians and black leaders to give us something new, and they can't. All they can do is the same thing that they've always done. All they're selling is hope. They're not selling any tangible, concrete progress. And it's like this. If you hope for, this is why and y'all ain't got to agree with me, but I have to say that this is why I don't like the song "We Shall Overcome." Someday. When is someday?
Hey, Doc, in general, how do you sell hope and you maintain accountability at the same time? Are the two intertwined?
That can't be.
No, not at all.
It can't be.
There's no such thing as selling hope. You're either going to do something or you're not. Okay, hope is a dream. Okay, dreams is a state of unconsciousness, not aware. So if you have a dream about something, there's no conscious action on that part. So we're dreaming. See, we're waiting on people to fix us when we're not even investing in fixing ourselves. Why should white people invest in our community and we don't? You lead through example. I'm just being real. And nobody wants to have this deep, necessary conversation of enlightenment with our people. We continue to be victims.
And we're willing to have it.
Yeah,
but Doc, here's a question here, and Brother Love, here's a question here. How would it affect black people? All right, I don't even want to say the black community right now. How would it affect black people if we stop saying we have black leaders, and we judge ourselves accordingly like other races, and we did things for the betterment of society in general? Because I think one thing that kind of holds black people back is that we say we have black leaders who are speaking out and who are doing things on our behalf. But really and truly, are they doing that? And I'm not, this is just a rhetorical question. I'm not saying this about anybody or any, but I think that here as black Americans, we too much are looking for a black leader to tell us what we should do.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. And that's a Messiah complex. We're looking for that person to lead us, like Moses leading us out the desert. And we've been sold that. Okay, remember, throughout our history, we've always had spokespeople in the African American community who spoke. W.B. Du Bois,
Ralph Abernathy,
Martin Luther King,
Marcus Garvey,
Marcus Garvey. All these people were emissaries on behalf, and we allow people to treat us as a monolithic people.
Yep.
You're right. Well, Doc, let me ask this question, and Brother Jackson, this goes to you as well.
Yeah.
We often have to step back and do I don't know if they call it a post-mortem on ourselves based on things that we've done. Greg, I got to tell you, I'm very proud of you and I. We partnered with some leaders in the community, and I don't know if this was 2018, 2019, or I think when George Floyd incident took place, and we was able to message the issue that we needed to come together as a community, and this was targeted to the African American community, and we were over at the Crown Hotel, and that's the
Crown Plaza.
Crown Plaza. Greg, how many people did we leaders? How many leaders was up in that
It was
hotel?
a good number. I can't think, but it was a good number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
over 100.
Yeah.
And
But-
we had the conversation and discussion about what we needed done. We also cited the promise, the pledge about investment in the Black community. And Greg, it was something I had never seen before, man. We had those leaders in the room. They were getting up and everybody was kumbaya, circling the wagons. Now, fast forward, because I'm willing to take ownership and responsibility. Greg, you and I, we were able to put that together. I don't know how. It was just God behind us. And we had Bishop Derek McCrae, man, who continued to lead the charge. We had Glenn Galzine. Where did we tail off, or where did we go wrong? Because that was a strong movement. Everybody was singing.
I'm raising my hand. I want to answer that. Let me answer that.
Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you where you went wrong, okay? The first thing you said, we got to come together. See, and this is the trap that we fall in. We have this belief that we have to be on one accord and move in sync with one another as a monolithic people. So we're teaching that idea of being monolithic. We got to come together. When are Black people going to come together? We don't need to come together. We need to agree what are the issues facing our community, and then we need to attack them all at the same time, but in our own separate ways. We all got enough ideas. So everybody don't need to be under one tent. What's harder for you to kill, a swarm of bees or one bee?
But Doc, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not countering it, but that forum was a forum where we had a bunch of different ideas, but Doc,
you're repeating the pattern. You're repeating the pattern of behavior and action, Rod, that has not, in the grand scheme of things, has not produced very, very much progress over the years. I'm a child of the 60s, and they've been singing "We Shall Overcome" someday since I was a kid. And many of the circumstances of poverty, underserved community issues, they are still the same as when I was a child.
And Doc, I agree with you. We're not a monolithic thinking people, but here's something that I'm gonna put on the table for you again.
Okay.
And that is, man, we got a litany of issues that need to be addressed. And when we come out of the gate, everybody running in so many different directions, we get nothing accomplished. So why don't we try something different and focus on just one doggone thing to get done?
Well, we don't need to come together and I disagree, because we need to identify what it's called triage. What's the biggest problem we face in our community?
It depends on where you are in the community.
Correct.
Exactly.
for some people
But
it's
I'm
crime.
saying each
Yeah, some people it's
segment,
crime,
each
some people,
segment
yeah.
of our community, though, can do its own triage and identify. And then we agree, okay, we got a high level of, let's just say, single parent household. What can we do to shore that up and strengthen the family units? What kind of organizations are out there? And then we start to refer people in situations that match that criteria to organizations who address that issue. We don't need to all work on that issue at the same time. It's like a specialist. A general surgeon doesn't do what a specialist does. We've got
Hey, Doc,
we've got to understand that.
This is what I'll say. So Doc, I think you and I are speaking the same language, but I think we kind of tail off in one respect. I don't think we should be looking for a Black leader. That's what I think. I don't think we should be relying on saying that, hey, there's a Black person or a Black, but I think that we most certainly should be strategizing. I think that we should come up with issues that we can agree upon, that we can work together to get done and figure that part out. But I don't think that it should be something where we just rely on one person to be our spokesperson to do that. But we most certainly If we have because that's basically what you're saying. We have to find a specialist to do X, Y, Z, and that's what
that's
that
not
group
what
did.
I'm meaning. That's not what I'm meaning. I'm not saying we have to have a specialist. What I'm saying is, okay, if you and I have an after school program, we don't need to be in the same school.
I'm not saying
What I'm
that.
saying is, huh?
I'm not saying that though.
No, but I'm saying this is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we have this idea that we a process of coming together. What does coming together look like? Define when we come together, what are we coming together for?
Well, for that
What
part,
does coming together look like in our community? What
Okay,
does that mean?
Greg. Okay, go ahead, because this is a good question.
No. I was going to say because in that regard, when we came together, it wasn't coming together on a single issue. It was coming together on what things do we need to get done in our respective areas. How do we come together and make sure that we're supporting what the other is doing, whether it is by deed, whether it is by making sure that you're in the right in the right audience at the right table. But you're going to be doing your thing. But if I can assist you in getting those things done, then that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, but are we identifying what are the critical issues, the most critical issues that need hands-on first?
Well, I can tell you. I can
because-
tell you.
That's why you had so many people at the table, yeah.
And I can tell you that's why we had those people at the table, and you know this goes back far enough, Greg, to where I done forgot half of what we talked about, but I do remember a couple of the priorities were economic development was one, and then when people say economic development is so broad and wide, what do you mean? Well, we were talking about those small businesses that are in communities that have a track record. Where's the access to capital for those small businesses?
That's right.
And the promise had already been put out there. So that was one of the issues. The second issue that brought us together was an issue relative to criminal and juvenile justice issues. What can we do when we see that there's a disproportionate percentage of black males and females that are going into the deep end of the system for the same offenses as the white counterparts?
Right.
Those are the conversations that we were having. And, you know, to put it very succinctly, man, we had the value of a Dr. Nelson who goes around the country and develop community action plans that's not developed by somebody like me and Greg coming into the community. It's developed by those stakeholders and those government stakeholders, and it's
now-
not developed for one or the other. It's developed for the community.
Right.
Remember, I was there. I was riding with you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know the focus of the impact that the conversations were having, but when it came time for executing, how many people supported y'all? I remember I still got film of the meeting with the city of Apopka that you guys spearheaded. Y'all spent all that money on putting together that report and everything about issues, and the community didn't show up. I remember some
yeah,
other
yeah.
issues
Hey, but
where you guys, again, you spent your money, okay? You contacted certain people who were willing to come in and do some development in the community. You wanted the community input.
And didn't get
What
it.
happened? They didn't
And
show
you
up.
know what? And you're right. I mean, we got the input, but we didn't get the execution.
Yeah.
And something
Right.
else, Greg, that you mentioned, and Doc, you mentioned that you're absolutely correct. No, we're not looking for a black savior because, as a matter of fact, Mayor Brian Nelson is one of the main individuals that said, hey, guys, we got to do something to impact this community positively. And, you know, man, I tell you, I hate that it went off the rails. But, Greg, Doc, I got to come back to this point in place, and y'all help me. But, man, we do a piss poor job. And, Greg, I don't know if me, you, and Doc, if we can look back on our actions or inactions post-mortem to say, what could we have done better? But just my critique of it is, man, we got to figure out how do the black community mobilize and circle the wagons. We have forums, and we might have forums that set up for 50, 60 people, and
I mean, the problem is this, though, Brother Love. A lot of times when people come to these forums, they bring their own issues and their own agendas, and they don't want to set
Exactly.
those things aside
Right.
for the betterment of the whole community. And so when they realize they're not going to get what they want, or when they realize that they've got what they want and that they can leverage that to get more of what they want, then they leave the group. they're not. This is the relationships we were talking about. Remember,
You're right,
taking
you're
it full
right.
circle. We were talking
You're
about if I build 10 millionaires, if something ever happens and I go broke, I can become a millionaire again. We have individuals that come to these groups with their own agendas, and they forget that
Right.
they're there to be a part of the greater good, so that if one
Right.
falls behind, that they can lift the other ones up.
You know what?
Exactly.
With 10 seconds left,
I can-
Doc, we got 10 seconds. Hey, Greg, we're going to leave on that note because I don't know, man, what we got going on next week. But
Hey, we on the airwaves, so we can get off when we want to. Remember that it's our Hey,
hey, so it don't matter if we go over, right?
You trying to get slick?
This ain't WOKB.
You know, it's so-
We ain't gotta go nowhere.
but you're absolutely correct, man. I mean,
Let's have the no for a minute. Let's have this conversation because it's necessary. I'm not trying to throw because I would love to hear feedback on our thoughts because that's where it begins. Honestly,
hey, let me give this phone number out because man, we got some folk that watch this, man, and I don't know why they getting shot tonight, Greg. But the phone number to dial is 352-973-0136. Join us for this conversation because, as you can see, my two comrades are lit up on this one.
But listen, though, it goes back to the question that we always ask when someone is running for political office: if they don't win, whatever happens.
What happens to them? You're right.
And it's
Exactly.
the same thing. When these people come to these meetings, when they don't get what they want, what happens to them?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're really and truly in it for the community and for building a brighter future for the young people around us, then you're not looking at it where if I don't get what I want, I ain't coming back. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that.
You're
What
right.
you're doing is just sticking. It's just like, how can I help to further, building up a better community? And it's unfortunate that a lot of folks, when they're coming through, they're not doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
They're just not.
And
you
remember
know,
now, I've been riding with y'all a long time, and I know some of the clowns y'all have had to encounter. Okay, and these people, they are par for the course, the model of what we're talking about. They're with you because they have an agenda,
Yeah.
and once they can't control everything, they break off, and now they attack you.
And
You
it's not,
supported their
it's
dreams.
not even if they can't control things, because in some circumstance, when they are able to walk through the doors that we have helped them to open, they forget who opened the door.
yeah.
And
Exactly.
they'll do things that not only do they forget who opened the door, but they'll close the door on us.
Yeah, you're right.
And
You're right.
far too often, that's the dynamic that unfolds in those situations. Everybody's what they say. Too many Chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yeah.
So if we know the dynamic,
Right.
how do we strategize to work around that dynamic or go through that dynamic?
Oh, the people that are like that, they've shown us who they are.
Yeah.
They've shown us who they are. But the other thing too is that, and we always say this, and big ups to Brother Armando, man, because one of the things we've always said is that when we try to be mentors to people, we may be great mentors, but we have terrible mentees.
Mm-hmm.
And being a good mentee means that you come around, that you stick, that you're there, through the good, through the bad, through the ups and the downs. And I'll tell you, man, Brother Armando, no matter what the season is,
He's there.
He's always there. And that's the type of person that you want to mentor, that you want to see improve and do things in life. And Brother Armando, y'all don't see it, but at the end of virtually every show, he'll be like, hey, y'all, I got this. Or what do y'all think about this? And he seeks our counsel, and we give it to him, and he listens. And whether or not he does what we say or he internalizes it to make a decision that's right for him, and that's what a lot of people don't do.
You're right. You're right.
They're not good mentees, and what they want us to give them all of the answers without the work to go with what we're telling them.
Right.
And, Greg,
Right.
it's taken us some time. And Greg, at first when you were saying how some of these mentors want to control the environment and not necessarily be a mentor,
Yeah.
we've starting to see. Brother Armando, but then one of your frat brothers, man, who has stayed in touch with me, man, and he's showing that he wants to learn. And CJ Battles, young
Brother
guy.
Battles. Yeah, Brother Battles.
Man, that cat, man, he reads a lot, and he sends me the articles, man, that he's reading, and he's looking at what we're doing, and you can tell that brother's picking up on what's taking place. Darius Glenn, another young brother. So it's coming around slowly.
I mean, you got brothers like Julian.
Yeah.
You got brothers like Sam Reddick. Sam, we don't necessarily have to talk to Sam every day, but he reach up, he'll pick up the phone. Hey guys, I got this going on.
You're right.
I mean, and that's, and we allow them to grow in the pace that they want to and need to grow in.
I talk a little bit about mutiny and what happened to Julius Caesar. And I talk about it from the perspective of, it used to be a time, and Greg, I know you grew up in that era as well, where our elders would teach young people behind them. And Doc, you mentioned it. Your terminology is building a bench.
Yeah.
But it used to be a point in time to where our elders would teach us how to navigate, whether you're in politics, business, whatever it is. But then we saw this shift to where a lot of the elders, not only were they not teaching, but they were sitting in these positions forever, not giving any hope to these young people who were sitting back, learning the trade. And that's where I talk about mutiny and the Julius Caesar ending. Greg, you're familiar with how Julius Caesar ended, right? With the senators?
Oh, yeah, Et tu, Brute?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Greg, elaborate on, because see, I want to make a point here. Elaborate. All the senators had to sword him. And even when they assassinated Julius Caesar, because they say, hey, this guy's getting too powerful, this guy is a dictator, even when the first 7 or so senators drew their sword and killed them, all the senators in the hall had to do the same thing because each of them had to
be a part of the conspiracy.
Had to do their part. And so I talk about the Julius Caesar ending, but then I also talk about mutiny on the bow. If you have these young people and they're sitting back and they finally realize that you're not going to help develop them, you're not going to pass the torch, you're going to eventually have mutiny. You're going to eventually have the Julius Caesar. And I'm going to tell you one little example of modern day mutiny. The United States Congresswoman, what's her name? Was it Shirley something? She was running for the mayor of Houston.
Oh, yeah.
And her aides, she had 2 male aides, and all of a sudden this recording of how she would belittle them, curse them out, call them all kind of names, big, fat, this, that, and the other, while she was running for the mayor's office. And the recording came out 2 weeks before the race to show how ugly she was.
Yep. And
Hey, that's mutiny.
Yeah.
That's Julius Caesar. And it couldn't have come from anywhere else other than
Inside.
Yep.
But what is it so toxic about those type of leaders? And we have some. I mean, some of the stuff I've heard people say behind the scenes is just ridiculous. The way that they treat people and believe that they have a right to. This is a problem in leadership. The one thing I learned from the U.S. military is train your replacement. That's how you get promoted.
Yep.
You train your replacement. If they see that you can train your squad, your group, your team, then that moves you up. Now we know that you're a leader. You're not trying to stay in that position forever. There's no harm in training your replacement. That's a promotion. And we have to develop a system, because we've never really had a system for leadership, because we don't have the foundational family unit as so many traditions. That's our biggest problem too. We don't have a traditional base of power to come from. So we the Chinese have reverence for their family.
Yep.
And
for the elders,
Hispanics, the patriarch is the head of the family. I don't care how many generations. Those young people go to their grandfather, their great grandfather, get permission. So there's a hierarchy and an order.
Hey, Doc, man, reference what was stated on the sit down, the show with Miss Anderson and Mr. Eddie Battle. One of the words that continue to come up, and it's something that you, Greg, and myself have been doing for quite a while, and that was simply exposure.
Exactly. And far too many times we don't have our children exposed to things that they need to talk about. And like I told you in that section, I didn't get financially literate till I was in my 40s.
Yeah.
Because again, I had not been exposed to the fact that money was a tool, that I needed to have a understanding about finances in order to build wealth and to live better. So you can have money coming in and all of that, but if you don't know how to save money, if you don't know how to make that money work for you, you're always going to be broke. It was interesting that they said that they had an accountant come to them, Greg, and the accountant was bad with money.
How'd that happen?
And see, we think because you know math that you're good with money, and that's not necessarily the truth, because everybody doesn't have the sensibility of a discipline. You ever had somebody say, "You smart about this? How you don't know this? You real smart. How you don't know this?" Well, I can't know everything.
You
get what I'm saying?
And I hate to take us off script, but since we talking about all this stuff, and we all know how Cat Williams broke the internet a couple of weeks ago, but I was just
and Monique just did it last week too. So.
Oh yeah, because she went on.
Oh
Shannon
yeah,
Sharp, right?
y'all you have got to see those interviews. If you haven't seen them, they are a lesson.
Hey, but was Monique interview as good as Cat?
No, I mean no, because remember she's following him now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I mean, but she has some very valid points that she made. Based on the historical perspective of what she's been through, and the fact that someone like Tiffany Haddish was talking about her relationship with her husband, and the fact that when she was being underpaid by Netflix and fought that there were African Americans that came and rallied against her for saying y'all are not paying me enough. They were telling her that you should be happy with whatever they're giving you. Where you have a Amy Schumer or a Melissa McCarthy who's making millions of dollars, they wanted to give her $500,000, and to them they were like, "Oh, you should have just taken the money." And now you have Taraji Henson who's whining and crying about not getting paid enough. Where were you when Monique was saying the same thing about Netflix? Brother Armando, what you got? I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, you don't think it was Kanye that started this?
What about pay?
With this whole
I'm thinking on that one.
going on, like, basically just going off. Like, about
What did he say?
issues that-
I mean, Mondo's asking whether or not
Kanye had any role in this.
Yeah, and Armando, I got to treat you like I treat my two brothers here now. I got to think that through. But the first thing I would say was, man, there's never been any revelations that Kanye was underpaid.
Well, all of the situations in the Adidas situation, from my understanding, I think he actually defeated that situation already. It seems like they're
For
trying
those
to
of you who
do it
can't
again.
hear because Mondo's not mic'd up, is he's saying that Kanye, what was it, Mondo, that
He defeated that.
he defeated Adidas?
The Adidas situation, because Adidas is in the point of trying to do business with him again.
Oh, okay.
So it's seeming like the unfair treatment, not unfair pay, but unfair treatment was what the issue is.
Okay, and see both of those. I mean, those things, Armando, and I get what you're saying, but unfair treatment versus being underpaid. Taraji is talking about being underpaid. Monique is talking about being underpaid, and you see, and so I'm looking at that, Mondo, and I'm sitting back and I'm thinking about Taraji. I mean, when you go back and look at this with making the movie of Color Purple,
yeah.
and she talks about how she went to Oprah about the catering service that they didn't
And
like.
Oprah was a producer of that film.
Correct. She was the producer. Warner Brothers was the production company. Oprah was one of the producers, and Oprah got the bag. Now let's acknowledge it. She can call the network's studios and have things change, which Taraji came back and acknowledged when she complained about the food. They came and upped the catering game. When they gave all the artists rental cars, she thought that they should be chauffeured around. They came back and got chauffeurs. So, I mean, come on, man. You got to open up your mouth and you got to fight for what you want. And if you're not getting what you want, you got to take a stand at some point in
I
time.
wonder who our management is, because usually that's in their rider.
Yeah. And that's been the big question.
You can't point the finger at the agency and the producers, because that should be in your rider.
Greg, you've been on that side of the business before. The rider includes what? What?
I mean, just what the needs of the artists are, the things that they're going to have in order to do their job. And the thing about the driver that they were asking for, it was more so of a security issue as well.
Okay.
Because if these actors or these entertainers are having to drive themselves, there's a liability issue if they have an accident, but also if they go into an area because they weren't shooting in the best area, and something happens to them because they're robbed or something like that. There were certain issues that, quite frankly, I think that the production company should have known about that. So yeah.
And a lot of the conversation is going back to those artists. I mean, I was talking earlier about circling the wagons, man, and mobilizing. When they brought the point up that Kevin Hart, this was when your boy Cat Williams was lighting up the internet, and there was another comedian that was at the same restaurant that Kevin Hart was at, but he didn't have them deep pockets, so he wasn't sitting at no exclusive table. He said he was sitting off in the cuff. Kevin Hart saw him, came over to him and said, "Come on, sit at my table." He's in the comedy business. And he says folks saw him sitting at Kevin Hart's table, and he started getting gigs. That's the same power that Will Smith had, or maybe still have. I don't know.
I ain't seen him in a while, so I don't know.
So, man, it's about us not being shy about putting your best foot forward. And again, I'm not saying do it based on you looking the same as another person, because I've had people that don't look like me that have been a godsend for me.
Yeah.
But
But
see,
here's the thing.
That right there, Rod, that's what we need to teach too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of black people don't understand that. The majority of white people don't have a problem with black folks. They really don't. And I always tell you behind the scene about who's mentored me and stuff. And we've got to stop putting our crisis on other people when we're responsible for ourselves. Yeah, our people have went through some things, but that doesn't mean that you have to allow it to be your legacy and live, and that's all you live for. We've got to teach our kids how to navigate and compete instead of being victims. We're teaching victimhood now. That's the number one product that we're producing, and it's not working well for us. And
Hey,
we have the lack of progress that we do as well.
Hey, so let me lay this out for for all of y'all. Dave Chappelle. He was a little quiet on the Cat Williams deal for a few days.
Yeah.
And then he came out and he said, I love Cat Williams. I mean, he acknowledged. He said, I love Cat Williams. He says, man, Cat, you are an artist. He said, you're a great artist. And, Dave Chappelle, man, very cranial. His humor is, he knows how to deliver a line. But when he came back and said, Cat Williams is one of those artists that comes along almost once in a lifetime, he says, Cat, you are the man. But he says, man, we know you know how to paint a perfect picture of people. But why is it that you just painting all black artists with this imperfection that you're painting? And the way he delivered that is he was delivering to say, man, everybody you naming look like you. Is there been anybody else that's in the business that you feel has never treated you right? And haven't heard anything from Cat Williams yet. You got Shannon Sharpe talking about he waiting to catch
Mike Epps.
Oh yeah.
Hey, so tell why he's waiting to catch Mike Epps.
Well, apparently Mike Epps did a comedy show either this weekend or not so long ago, and he basically made the comment that that Club Shay Shay had reached out to him, which they hadn't. He actually said he reached out to them to come on the show, but he was like, he didn't want to go on the show because Shannon Sharpe told him, put a wig on him, he looked like Medea. And so here's some other stuff he said that I will not repeat. But it was actually pretty funny. But Shannon Sharp just kind of took issue because what he was saying, it's interesting because Shannon Sharp was like, look, call me gay. I've been called that before. And all that sort of stuff. He said, but, don't take my brand and tarnish my brand.
And lie on, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, so Shannon
Yeah, he
Sharp
said
said
he didn't.
that it's on
He didn't
site.
even ask him to come on the show.
Huh?
And he said he didn't ask him to come on the show, and he's got the
The DMs, but Mike Epps in his response, he basically said, well, look, I reached out to him.
Man.
So he did say that.
Hey, and then you had this moderator that said to Mike Epps, he said, man, if I was you, I'd get on the phone right now with Shannon Sharp and fix that up, because he said Shannon Sharp is talking about when he see you, he gonna have a conversation. And then on the show, and I had to catch it, Mondo, because I still know what some of the slang stuff is, but Shannon Sharp say, man, Mike Epps, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Hey, and I said, he said it a few times. Yeah.
But let's do this though. And Brother Armando, thanks for shooting this over to me. I'm going to give Shannon Sharp a lot of credit for something though.
Uh-huh.
Remember, Shannon Sharp was beefing with Ja Morant and his teammates, and he was at the game. This is when he was on the show with Skip Bayless, and he basically came out and he was like,
I
look,
remember.
I was wrong. I think tempers got heated. If I'd done something, I apologize. Shannon Sharp is the type of person that if something takes it to the next level, he has no problem with saying, wait a minute, let's take a step back and let's see how we can better handle this.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
So what Brother Armando has passed on to us, and thank you, Brother Armando, for that's what you do. But apparently, Shannon Sharp has put out a message, a text, or an Instagram post, and he says that Unc, which that's what he calls himself, and the real Mike Epps have decided to have a man-to-man conversation in Indy at the NBA All-Star Weekend to discuss our differences. We both realize the situation should have been handled differently. I apologize to friends, loved ones, and my fans. Club Shay Shay.
See, that's
That's how you handle it.
Yeah.
Big ups. Yeah, that's big ups to Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
Big ups to Mike Epps, because they're right. This could have turned into something, a real live beef.
you're right.
It
That
could
was
have turned into
unnecessary.
a Chris Rock and Will Smith moment.
And Will Smith. Yeah. So
Yeah, you're right. But that is, man, that quality we are not seeing as prevalent as we need to see.
because a lot of times in our community, when we get mad, we stay mad.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And when you get mad and you stay mad, that prevents an opportunity to do greater things.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of problems that we have in our community comes from. I mean, it's people right now that are upset with you and I for stuff that happened, 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it isn't even stuff that we did. It's a
Correct.
misconception on their part.
No, people mad
You
with
know?
y'all about imaginary stuff.
Well, yeah, it was imaginary.
and Greg and Doc, on that note, when you have situations like that, because it's great that Shannon and Mike Epps reached out to each other. We don't know how it happened, but you also have situations where you have intermediaries
Yeah.
that step in and referee,
Yeah.
if you would.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just think we need both.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, they did it publicly, and they're resolving it publicly.
Yeah.
And I think that is a trait that, a lot of folks need to have. But here's the thing, though, just kind of taking this thing back full circle, because we asked the question of kind of, why is it in our community that, we're unable to get a lot of things done. I'm going to say probably the first thing that we need to do, Brother Love, Dr. Polite, Brother Armando, is the black community needs to realize that we don't have to vote Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
We should not be the race of the Democrats. And once Democrats realize, or they take us serious about the fact that if you don't address our issues, you don't get our vote, I think that's when the black community will have more power. I think that's when we'll have more resources coming into the African American community, and that's why I think that you'll see real change. But just so long as the Democratic Party thinks or knows that they get 95% of the African American vote, just so long as the Republicans act and think that they only get 5% of the black vote, we're not going to get anything.
You're right. Greg,
It
that's
goes
on point.
both ways.
That's really on point. Greg, before you leave that, and Doc, this extends to you, Mondo. You're a young guy. I value your contribution as well. Greg, what you just said is directly on point. So now my question is, before we wind down, how do we mobilize to have that conversation? How do we mobilize a room or the players that need to be in the room. How do we do that? I mean, I don't even begin to remember how did we do the Crown Plaza deal, because we started calling people that we knew, and next thing we knew, it was off and rolling. Over 100 leaders in that room. How do we get there, Greg? How do we get there again? We know that blueprint has already been developed. How do we reignite that?
Man, you got to start the conversation.
Well, I think a strategy is, once again, you've already set a blueprint in the first event, that Plaza meeting. Go back to that, and this time have a list of problems, identifiable problems, and everybody gets to be a think tank, just like the crime the crime thing, Rod, that you sat on. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Y'all came out of there with some real actionable things that were able to be implemented. And you're seeing, it wasn't a quick fix. You started addressing those issues, and now they're starting to pay off. And it's got to be the same mentality. Go in there with let's say a survey. Here are some issues. In the order of 1 to 10, rank them. That allows you to identify where the majority think the problems are. Then have a forum to address that. Okay, this is the order that most of you think, number one issue is crime. Okay, number 2 issue is education. The majority of you voted those in. Get that, because data is gonna, y'all know data is gonna tell the tale. I mean, we see what FEC does. FEC is a bad company, and to have that information and that data that's measurable and tangible, you can point to where the impact is taking place. And we don't have that when it comes to Black issues. We just kind of generalize in many ways.
Hey, Doc, and you're right on point. One of the things, though, I got to put out here, and I'm learning from some other folk, is that what they say, Greg, a closed mouth don't get fed. And Greg and I, when we took this on, 2018, we took on something that we anticipated we were going to do for 3 months. When we looked at the task force, it turned out to be 7 or 8 months of intense labor, working with the community, but it also had a monetary value that government didn't fund, and this was something that we did because we were passionate about it. I don't know where other folk find the ability for resources, Greg. But man, when you think about what needs to be done, and I understand why, unfortunately, Greg, the communities that we're talking about, it doesn't get done because you don't see the resources that are there. And then if resources do pop up, and I'm speaking of government resources, now it's a controlled environment where nobody trusts what's going to come out of this because it's been kind of rehearsed and orchestrated.
Right.
And Doc, you I'm with you, man, but boy, this stuff is tedious. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Financially as well as physically.
Yeah.
And shoot, man, we
But
had the
that's why you
luxury
need
of
a bench. Just imagine if you, Rod, had a team and Greg had a team, and those teams back y'all up, and they were able to continuously apply pressure against these issues every day, all day. They will get resolved. But we have a cycle in our community. We get mad, we get loud, and then we disappear.
Yeah, we have
time.
moments. We have moments, not movements.
We don't
anymore.
keep pressure on. You looking at, we mad now that the immigrants are getting all our tax money. But when it comes time for us to show up in numbers to vote our interests, to voice our issues, we don't do it. And if you don't care about your community, why should somebody else care about it? I don't expect people from Winter Park to come over in Pine Hills to clean up that community. They don't live there.
Greg said something earlier that was really profound, and it's sticking on me, and that is to have a forum where it's open dialogue, but I think one of the central points need to be to say to black folk, hey, you do not need to put all your eggs
Yeah.
in a Democratic basket.
Yep.
You make yourself more valuable when these parties, if you would, see that you're viable to both parties.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, Hispanics
you
have done
know
it.
why
The
they do
Asian
it?
community has done it. Everyone has done it except for the African American community. And because Democrats know that they can rely on the majority of African Americans to vote for that party, our votes have no longer have the power or the influence that it should have. It does not have the power and the influence of the Hispanic vote from the standpoint of Hispanics. Whatever their issue is, if they have issues, those things are taken care of and they're heard and they're addressed.
You're right. And you know what? Some of the conversation that we've had before, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, is that when I have folks say to me, Rod, Republicans don't care about me, and then I ask the question, well, have you ever gone and sat down and have a conversation about what your issue is to look at if your issue can be resolved?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is more oftentimes
they have
no.
not. They have not.
You know, I saw an interview the other night, and they were talking about this. It was a celebrity, but the thing is, he said, at least with Donald Trump, you know what you get.
Yeah, you're right.
He said, at least with Donald Trump, you know what you get, and you can, and when you know that, you can plan against that. He said, but when you being told one thing and the whole agenda is a lie, it's hard to combat that because you moving forward with the assumption the person's going to do the right thing.
Well, I tell you fellas what, y'all took us to another interesting conversation, and I know it should open up some doors. Brother Armando, hey, keep up the good work because that information you sent to Brother Jackson, I mean, that's powerful, and I think that was a teachable moment.
I mean, I think Brother Armando allowed us to be the first ones to report that Nick Saban had retired as a coach
You're
of
right.
Alabama.
You're right.
Yeah, I mean, and I started hearing it on the news cycles 2 days after we had it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Hey, we got our researcher in the studio, research and engineer. Hey, Doc Polite, brother, we appreciate you, man. And, man, I tell you, you losing that weight, brother.
I know Armando didn't see it, did he?
Nah.
Armando, did you see it?
I saw it.
Yeah, he said he saw it.
Oh, yeah. Y'all, that's me 15 years ago.
Hey, well,
Dang, there he is right there. Look at him.
woo.
Yeah, good job, man.
Yeah, you ain't
That's a
lying.
Good job.
You ain't lying. Hey, well, fellas, we gonna close this thing on out, man. Next week, same time, same place. Brother Jackson, man, I tell you all this. I've been telling you for 6.5 years. You do not have to go home.
But you got to get out of here.
Hey, until next week on Let's Talk Nation, hey, we look forward to seeing you, hearing from you, and all the above. Take care. Have a good week.